sorry for the rough start, everybody. Welcome to Wild Earth. There's a wild dog in front of us. We're on the hunt. Here we go. It's 19 degrees here. Lovely bank of cloud come over, 66 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're following the Sands pack, it would seem, on the hunt early morning. Nobody else out, which is just marvelous. There were 3 adults in here, there's 1 here, and they seem to be circling around trying to get hold of each other. What a way to start. Sorry we're late, but worth the wait, I think. Let's try and see where they've gone. Gendre is on camera, everybody. Do you see them?
Ja, went back to.
And a big shout out to Gerda. Thank you, Gerda. You put together a montage of all the left sides of the Sands pack. Images thereof. Hugely important for wild dog conservation to have pictures of every single dog that we have. So thank you for that, Gerda. They're definitely running around looking for each other. When we found them about 10 minutes ago, just before we came to you, they were knocking about here, seemingly trying to find each other. And just astonishing the different colours. We're trying to get hold of Scott, everybody, but he's tracking Karula on. Oh, another one right here. Scott, you copy, Scott? We've got them here at Junction Hippo Pools and Warri Pan Road. They're now mobile north back towards the dam. I would come to the dam and maybe do Warri Pan. I think the pups might be there. Right, Scott will come into the area. The great thing about being out this early in the morning, well, there are a number of great things, but this is a particularly good one, is that no one else is out. So we can put both of our Wild Earth cars in here, and with any luck, they do go on the hunt. We'll be able to follow them much more closely than if this wasn't the case. The only that we've seen so far, they're definitely satellite dish-shaped ears looking forward. This is just fantastic. Updating Scott so that he comes to the right place. Scotty now mobile north up Warri Pan Road. Got the rest of the pack there. Probably the rest of the pack is now on Warri Pan Road. Isn't that fantastic? They're the little ones. I'm going to park Gendre at a horrible angle here. Sorry about that, Gendre. Oh, wow. But they're all being totally silent. They're all trying to listen for something. There's not that normal greeting where the pups come rushing up to the adults and start begging. I have parked basically on a 90-degree slope, so Gendre will struggle every so often to maintain the balance of the camera. Here comes another adult out of the bush there. They're all reconnoitering here. Right, I'm just going to have to move slightly so that we can get this. They've obviously re-found each other. Here come the rest of the adults now down the road. Oh, the whole pack's moving now. Here we go. Now we've got action. Oh, wow. of the puppies is bringing a stick. He's just dropped it, sorry. Scotty, whole pack now mobile southbound Warri Pan Road towards Johnson Pippa Pools. These guys are now on the run. This is fantastic. This is just, I mean, what a way to start the day. This is the worst road on Juma, second worst road on Juma. Just a little bit difficult to maneuver. That doesn't matter. Alright, we're going to become some puppies. Anna Marie, as you say, we're so spoilt with all these wild dog sightings. I can't believe it. 2 packs here is just, I mean, it's spectacular. Sorry, I really should. I don't know what to do. The adults are up front. Here are the pups playing. I think let's go with the adults. They were right here. Oh dear, they've gone. John, any ideas? They're going to hunt around this area. I'm sure the pups will stay in that general vicinity.
Yeah.
We've got on the left. The adults. So sneak a little bit further forward up the road here. We are very close to our eastern boundary, but hopefully it seems that they've instructed the pups to stay there. Here, the rest of the adults are running through here. Listening all the time. Right, so I think we'll just go a little bit further straight up this road, which the others seem to be in there. No, we're not. That one's coming up the side. You're absolutely right. You say that this is a hell of a way to wake up and get going. It certainly is. You bumble around here, slightly bleary-eyed in the morning, and bang! Suddenly your heart rate has gone from, well, roughly 10 beats per minute up to about 280 in 3.5 seconds. They've gone through here somewhere. Scotty, come straight along Warri Pan Road. The pups are still there. I'm trying to follow the adults now. Well, I'm just going to do a slightly faster loop through here. They were heading east, then they were all over basically Drakensberger Junction. There. I'm trying to find it now. Scott is nearly at the pubs. Get up here, then we'll turn around and come back and see if we can't pick up the other adults. They went one of them went darting through here. I don't know where the rest went. Keep looking for tracks. Tracks on the road here. So we'll turn around and go on into the block there. To follow them in there if they're on the hunt is going to be nigh on impossible. Keep eyes both sides of the road. Try not to take and hit off. Genres. Obviously looking here, they're not finding anything at the moment. They're just trying to obviously get some hold of some breakfast. So if you're perhaps a new viewer and you're not familiar with their behavior, as soon as it gets light they will hunt, especially when they've got hungry mouths to feed, and that's themselves and their pups. And this is now the perfect kind of time for them, but they obviously don't want to leave the pups for too long. They don't want to go too far away from them, so they're kind of circling in this area. And the rest are there. Hoping to find an impala or a skinbok or something like that here. So we think this is the Sands pack. So Natasha, this is the first time I've ever seen these. So Natasha, you want to know which pack this is? I think it's the Sands pack. And as far as I understand it, there are 21 or 22 members of this pack, 9 pups, and this was the pack that had very unusually 2 females breeding, the alpha and the female bred, but they still only managed to keep only 9 pups, which is very unusual, especially considering that other pack we watched with 3 adults has managed to keep hold of 10 of their pups, 11 of their pups. I think that probably goes down to blind luck, to be honest. So they're listening, smelling all the time. And I don't know if you've ever smelt a wild dog, but it really is it's a very doggy smell. It cannot be mistaken for anything else. Scott, you're going to bump the adults there. Scott's coming into the sighting now. There's Scott. Just going to have a quick word with him. Hello. They are all just down here, and the adults keep leaving, circling, then going back.
Sounds good.
Let's go quickly across to Scott and get his impression of all this.
Well, isn't this such awesome news? James has done an incredible job tracking down the wild dogs again. Tibbs and myself have been racing here at breakneck speed to make sure we don't miss out on anything. And what I'm probably going to do... Oh, there's one more adult, a few more adults behind us. Tibbs, quick. So a few more adults. And we're going to rush you back to James. It's just a few more adults heading back towards them, and we'll probably stay here.
So everybody, it's a kind of dominance display, sorting out the different hierarchies that are going to persist throughout the dog's lives and throughout the pup's lives. And you can see the omega animals lying on the ground. You can see the dominance, and there's a little bit of sort of disciplinary behavior, I think, as well going on from the adults. Now the adults are off on the hunt again. The alpha is now running past Scott. Let's stick here with the puppies for a second. I think the pups are going to maybe travel with the adults now. Not young for them to be on the hunt with the adults. Oh, and the smell is just amazing. Right, so all of them now running down the road. puppies, adults and all, going south down the road, looking for something to try and kill. All right, back to Scott quickly.
What? Look at this, they're playing right in front of the vehicle. And this is absolutely awesome, Tibbs. Maybe wide is your best bet in this scenario. Just stay wide, there's so much action going on. Look at this, these are the adults playing now, just like the pups were playing yesterday. And we're in for a seriously adventurous morning. This pack is highly mobile. And what I'm probably going to do now is, it's so difficult, I almost kind of need to guess their next movements. And I'm probably going to let James continue down Drakensberg Road, where most of the adults are heading, and I'm going to maybe take Cheetah Cutline. And there goes James and Jandre, high energy. And there's a few more pups just left behind us here. What I am going to clear up, a lot of you are confused as to the name of this pack and how that all works. They were initially called the half-tail pack. There was one male in the pack who did have half a tail. He is no longer, and for some reason the powers that be in the wild dog naming fraternity have decided to now call the pack the Sabi Sands pack. So we'll just roll with it. It's just a name at the end of the day. It's not a huge thing, but that is a little bit of history. And we're going to send you back to James now, and like I said, I'm probably going to loop it back onto Cheetah Cutline and wait over there and see what happens. Maybe they'll head further east and we'll be ready and waiting for them.
It's just amazing. All 9 pups have just run past us into the road. They're not quite as aware of the adults as the adults are of the car, so we have to be very careful not to do damage there. But they're all running with the pack. Very gentle pace for dogs. Normally they can run, they'll run 3 times the speed if they're actually on the hunt. I suspect when the adults go on the hunt, the puppies will go down. Way up ahead in front you can see the pups. Scotty, the adults are now heading in a straight line sort of northeast off the road. So yeah, maybe we need to cut around the left route. So Scott will go around onto the eastern boundary. Head south of there, Scotty, so you're not north, they're heading south from there, southeast. Yeah, they're going through the block now. All right, everybody, it's going to get a bit bumpy. Follow them through here. You don't want to get in front of them because those pups need to listen to what's going on. Scott will come around the other side and we'll hopefully pick him up there. Sorry about the tree. It will pop up, I promise. It will survive. Ooh, whether this car will survive or not is up to you. Watch your head here, Andre. No thorns. Watch your heads, everybody. Beady eye. You can't just drive through here at 100 miles an hour. Highly important that we do that very carefully because the pups are now following the adults and they're not as aware. There they go, they are through there. Turn slightly south. Yeah, pretty much, I think, central junction. Keeping Scott posted on the radio, of course. Watch your heads, everybody. Hope I don't get a punch out. One coming out there. Now, yeah, there's a couple of them actually going into that loping canter, which indicates that maybe one of them spotted something to eat. Watch your head here. From that nasty thorns. No thorns here, just a vicious tree. There we go in front of us. let's go across to Scott while we bash through here. I'll see you just now.
Isn't this so much fun? James gave me some wonderful directions and exactly where he told me to come. The pack have popped out. As you can see, the one is busy lightening its load, others are playing, and this is just too good to be true. 2 days in a row, we have now been spoilt with some incredible action. And aren't they just the most exciting animals to follow on safari? There are all the pups coming up in the background. Now it's going to be hard to do a head count. Yesterday we counted 19. Not sure if any members were missing. I'm not sure actually what their previous head count was before this. But we did count 19 yesterday. 10 adults and 9 pups. Now, we have already been spoiled this morning with some great views of this pack, but I must warn you that we are on our eastern boundary. And if they continue further east of here, we will no longer follow them, so that's a forewarning. But as you've seen, they move very big distances in very short spaces of time, and what may happen is that even though they may cross east, which some of them are doing now already, they may return in 5 or 10 minutes, so it won't be necessarily over yet. Now I can see James popping up in the background there. This is going to be a beautiful shot with all the pups in front of him. Too good to be true. Listen carefully. They've got a very strange form of communication, almost like a whooping howl, and one of them was just doing it now. Whoop, 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 whoop. And it seems like they've just gone quiet. Anyway, here come the rest of the pack. And they come running straight past us. Some of them still heading straight east into Torchwood. Our eastern neighbors. But it's not over just yet, and maybe they'll come across some prey that comes fleeing back towards Djuma, and we'll be in pole position to join in the hunt with this pack. And it may be time to say goodbye to these animals. Here are the last members of the pack, all pups. I'm just going to spin around quickly to try and get you a few more views. And Blair, I know, always sad to hear of an animal losing its life, and a few of you are expressing your concerns for the loss of the half-tail male, after which this pack was temporarily named after. But who knows, certainly would have been a big male, and he may have lived a very successful life as a wild dog. He certainly wouldn't have been a pup, so not too sure how old he was when he did die and what caused his death, or even when it happened, Blair. But like, it's always sad to lose animals, especially animals like this. You can't help but fall in love with them. And I'm sure a lot of you now appreciate and understand why they are Brent's favorite animals. He's going to be very jealous when he hears about the wonderful sightings we've been having. Now, even though James is in a vehicle just a few meters away from us, he's got a much better angle than us, so we're going to pop you onto his vehicle.
So like Scott says, I'm sitting probably 5 meters from him, about 15 feet, but we've just got a slightly better angle. And I, of course, am just astonished that the amount of wild dog action that we've had here, and that we have 2 packs occupying the same area, is just indicative of how unterritorial they are. Although they do mark, they're not particular defenders of territory, and it'd be very interesting to see what would happen if this pack came across the Investic pack, which we normally see. What a special morning this has been. So you can see them there. Just this will be the last view we get of them, I think, and they still haven't found anything to hunt. They're obviously not that comfortable leaving the pups alone for too long. They kind of leave them, then they went off hunting, went around a bit, and we saw them, and they went straight back to the pups, picked them up, and now they're going to try a new area. And this is Torchwood, just to the east of us, which is a property, of course, that we are not allowed to traverse, unfortunately. But the dogs, with a home range of roughly, well, up to 1,000 square kilometers, normally about 450 square k's in this area, well, they can traverse as many properties as they like in this area. And that, everybody, I'm afraid, is that as far as the dogs go. We'll just give you an impression of where Scott is. So we're right here, and it is just such fun to follow dogs together, because they are so difficult to follow when they're on the hunt. But that, I'm afraid, is that. Are you going to go north?
I think I will just slowly putter along north.
Okay, we'll putter along to the south and bask in the joy of the sighting that was.
Very good.
Okay.
Well done, James.
All right, see you later.
See you later, everyone.
Was that not just fantastic? The dogs, I mean. Interestingly, Edward, aka Ed the Hammer, it's a nice Twitter handle, Edward. You want to know, or you've said it's fascinating to watch them when they're running from a vehicle, but it must be absolutely terrifying to watch them. I'm just keeping an eye out here and see if they don't pop out again. Scott will do the same. It must be terrifying seeing them running towards you on foot. Ed, it's actually not really. They're pretty relaxed with people on foot. They don't tend to be aggressive at all. As far as I know, there are no records of adult human beings being taken out by dogs, and I've seen them many times on foot. And when they're on the hunt and you see them running and they're on foot and you're on foot, they ignore you totally. Wonderful experience once. We were walking next to a dam at Ngala, which is not too far north of here, and we were trying to track, I think it was an elephant bull we were trying to track, and we were 3 or 4 of us on foot, and suddenly this impala came running over the dam wall, followed closely by 3 wild dogs. They did not even look at us. They just carried on chasing this impala. The impala went into the water, and they just sat there. They didn't even look at us. So it is actually, it's one of my favorite things, is to see wild dogs on foot. Thank you, Ed. Right, let's see if we can find something else. I mean, it's going to be a tough act to follow that. Now, of course, what you do see is us driving through the bush, making a noise. And Derek, you want to know what the effects of that are, and do we have any effect on the hunt and that sort of thing. Derek, first of all, the big thing for you to notice is that it's going to be louder where you are than it is for us, because you are right next to the microphones, basically. You're basically sitting with your ear next to the most aggressive noise. So it's not quite as loud as it comes across to you, but it is loud, and we do need to be very sensitive about it. When they're on the hunt, though, they're not audio hunters. They're very visual hunters. So it doesn't worry me too much when we're on the hunt. I don't think we're going to affect them much. When they're looking for each other and they start calling and they start listening like that, it's always a good idea to turn off every so often, so that should they call, they can hear each other calling. But absolutely, we have to be sensitive about it. There's no question that a vehicle bouncing through the bush is not the same as a vehicle not bouncing through the bush behind them. But, Derek, I don't believe that when they're on the hunt, especially for dogs, it makes too much difference. It's not the same for the cats. The cats, of course, are very audio-orientated hunters, and their prey species will listen quite carefully, and so when the cats are on the hunt, you kind of just got to sit and wait and watch and see what you can see. But with the dogs, once they've seen something, they go for it, and they don't worry too much about listening. The prey doesn't worry about anything other than running as fast as they can. So, no, I think that's your answer. No question, we do have an effect on various things, so we do need to be very sensitive with the vehicles. But it is much louder, like I say, through the microphones than it is out here. Down to the south of this cut line here, see what we can spot, maybe follow up on something else. I didn't hear any lions calling during the night. I did hear an enormous amount of hyena activity, so we'll check around, see if we can't find some of that, and then maybe head into the area where Scott had Karula's tracks earlier this morning. Just far to the north of us, not too far from where we saw her last night. Sounds like while I was away on my little break for 3 days, you had some quite astonishing sightings. I should perhaps go away more often. That's your cue, Jean-Andre, to say, no, don't do that.
No, do.
See anything further on this cut line at the moment, so we'll turn into the west for the next available opportunity. Jana, you say you're coming to visit the Selby Sands next week. Jana, I think that's fantastic. I'd love to know where you're going, and you hope that the dogs stick around. We also hope a lot that the dogs stick around. They are the best things to follow. They're the most exciting, and they're just so beautiful. So, Jana, I hope they hang around. And Nick and Lincoln, thank you very much for welcome back after my extended hiatus. There's a giraffe of 3 days. Hello, giraffe. Now we can take a breather, the much more peaceful animal. No less magnificent, but slightly less frenetic. Beautiful giraffe cow feeding on some new combretum or bush willow leaves. There's another one off to the left-hand side. They're often in these kind of loose herds. They don't seem to be particularly socially concerned. I'm sorry, you can't actually see that one. Let me sneak forward a little bit and you might be able to get a view. No, I think we're just actually going to wait for that one to come out. That one's nasty thick bush, and this one's in a really good position. So kind of loose herds of agglomerations, and they're supposed to be loose social arrangements. I'm not sure that they are so loose. I think maybe they're a lot more firm than we think they are. And because giraffe are not obvious communicators, we don't know really how they communicate. There are lots of theories about infrasonic communication. There's probably quite a lot of olfactory or communication, which means they're smelling. But I think these associations are probably a lot more firm than we think they are. Jean-Andre got some wonderful footage from the air yesterday of a male giraffe trying his level best with the female for mating, and it's very seldom that we see giraffe mating, and we actually did see him mount her twice, Jean-Andre? 3 times which is spectacular. I've sat and watched giraffe for ages, and I've never seen that before. Well, I've seen it once before. And this is a good time for them to mate because they have a gestation period of just over a year, and that would put the calf being born sort of December next year, which, with any luck, well, not much to go on this year, but with any luck that will mean a kind of green and verdant land for the calf to be born into. At the moment, of course, very dry. It's been extremely hot. We popped past Buffels Hook Dam on our way to finding the dogs this morning, and really getting very dry indeed. Mud coming out of the bottom. I think within a week or so it's going to be gone, unless we get some proper rain, and I haven't seen any forecast. That said, there was no cloud forecast for today, and there's a really nice bank of shading cloud over us after the 40-degree day we had yesterday. Let's slip forward a bit. There's the other one coming there. Stop here. Sherry, you were worried about the drought, and you say it amazes you how these animals manage to survive a drought like this. Sherry, we're not exactly in a dire situation yet. It's not unusual for us not to have had the main rain by this stage of the day, or this stage of the year. But because last year was dry, it's made everything progressively drier than it might be otherwise. But that said, there are dams all the way through Buffels Hook. All the landowners there have got their own little patches of water which they often pump so that animals can go and drink there. The Sand River is not far from here, and that tends to be a perennial river, and if it isn't, there will certainly be pools in there that they can drink from. Just remember also that water is a limiting factor, and that's a good thing. It means that some animals will certainly, well, in theory, in a natural system, animals might die off during the dry season, and that's okay, because it keeps numbers down, and obviously, there's a certain amount of dynamic equilibrium, and what that means is that a dynamic equilibrium is an equilibrium that allows for certain changes, and that provides a certain amount of stability and robustness for the long-term survival of the ecosystem. But what is very difficult for us as humans to appreciate is that sometimes those cycles, those kind of cycles of the equilibrium, are longer than a human lifespan, or certainly longer than our involvement in an area like this. So it might be 10 lean years followed by 10, really good rain years. But we are obviously not able to just let animals die off in an area like this. Well, we seem to be unable to do that. It's very difficult to do that, and so it doesn't really happen out here. So Kerry, don't worry, there is enough for them to drink. There will be some difficult times, but they're okay. And then, we know the impala are about to drop their lambs with any luck, and for many years people thought that impala were able to hold the lambs back until conditions were favorable and they were able to give birth in the kind of when as it got wet. And Gemma, you want to know, do animals modify their mating behavior according to the droughts? Gemma, I don't think they do it, certainly don't do it consciously, and the reason for that, Gemma, is that they don't necessarily know, they don't have any better predictive abilities of the weather than we do, I don't think. And, over the long term, I'm not sure they know what's going to happen. But what does happen, of course, is that in a very dry time, so say if we have a prolonged drought, much like with human beings, if the nutritional status of the females goes down, or the males, their ability to conceive a fetus will obviously be reduced. So if a female is really hungry and lacking vitamins, she's not going to ovulate properly, her endometrial layer will not form correctly, and so the chances of her carrying a fetus to term will be markedly reduced. So I don't think it's a conscious choice, Gemma, but I think it would certainly have an effect over the course of a prolonged drought. Let's sneak a little bit further. What? Trying to start the engine. It tends to be, it's just much quieter. The Jigger doesn't have a quiet engine. See there the grey sky, and that giraffe is almost as fascinated by us as we are by her. Long tongue. I think it's the longest tongue of any mammal, if I'm not mistaken. About 70 centimetres. That's over 2 feet, just over 2 feet. That's a pretty long tongue. Chandra, you don't have a tongue that long. Got the other one now here as well. Just going to sneak forward here. She's right here. Look at that. That's spectacular. Only now about 10 meters, 30 feet from us, if that. Beautiful. Eating a plant called the weeping wattle. And you may have noticed that little bit of sort of gap in the skin, and that's a fairly standard thing. It's not a wound, it's something called an ectoparasite, or a parasite that affects the skin of giraffe, and they all seem to get it, and it's quite a good way of aging them. She's a middle-aged giraffe, this one, I'd say. And that's perfectly normal and doesn't seem to affect them too badly. Oh, I can hear some elephants shouting. That's what that giraffe's just lifted its head to listen to. Way in the distance. Giraffe always keeping an eye and an ear, but as you can see, they're obviously much taller than most things, and so they do tend to look rather than listen. That calling you can hear is a lilac-breasted roller that unfortunately is flying right above us. So there we go. No, so we can't get him, and he's going to do his rolling display. But he's in a position that Jean-Ray cannot get. No, we'll stay with the giraffe for now. Lots of bird activity at the moment. Well, relatively subdued dawn chorus, because I think they do tend to prefer the sun in the mornings, the giraffe. Not the giraffe, the birds. What am I talking about? There seems to be a bit of a bird party going on to the southeast of us. Jean-Ray, I've spotted a leopard tortoise. Just here. There it is. See it there. So everybody, as we get closer to what sounds like a fairly loud bird party, there is a leopard tortoise, which I'm sure you've seen a lot of recently. They do tend to be, well, I've seen many over the last few weeks. After the little bit of rain that we had, they all seemed to come out from wherever they were estivating, and here they are. Now, to estivate is it's like hibernation, but instead of happening during the cold, it happens during the dry. So what tortoises will do is go into this kind of state of torpor, or with a very low metabolic rate when it's dry, because they're not very good at finding water. They're not great migrators, are tortoises, given the speed at which they're able to move, which is not very fast. Look at that, isn't it lovely? He'll be looking for nice, fresh little grass shoots. And if it gets dry again, he'll go back into estivation. He won't hang around and sort of suffer the drought, if you know what I mean. Wonderful. Look how brilliantly camouflaged he is. So during the winter months when we don't see them, I think they're in kind of a little bit like that hollow under the tree there that you saw. They get themselves into some thick leaf litter or thick tree, or fallen bushes, and there they'll settle down for the winter time, because we don't see them in winter at all. Not very athletic, as you can see, but I think they do an astonishingly good job of moving around. Right, let us move gently along. Pretty good. Just quickly go back and have a look and see if we can't see those giraffe again. But if not, we'll carry on. There we go. Is that all right for you, Andre? I didn't stall, I promise. I really meant to stop the car. Now you can see, maybe, I'm going to stop here for now, if that's all right, Chandra. Giraffe have a black-blue tongue. Now, Gilly, you want to know if there's a reason for its colour. Gilly, I really couldn't tell you, I'm afraid. I'm just trying to think of other tongues out here. Quite a few of them are that kind of, it's more sort of purple, if you like. There are not many pink ones. I suppose all the cats and the other predators have got pink tongues like ours. But if you look at an impala's tongue or a kudu's tongue, they tend to be that kind of very dark colour. Maybe it's got something to do with having a purely vegetarian diet. I suspect it's got something to do with the covering on them. The covering on them that is basically allows them to eat. Basically allows them to eat a whole lot of thorns and not be cut up by them. So I think that's probably got something to do with it, Gilly, but as to the specific colour, I really don't know. And you can see them at the moment, they're eating a whole lot of Ziziphus mucronata or buffalo thorn. And Siberia, you want to know if they vary their diets according to season, like when the marula fruits come. Absolutely they do. They vary their diets according to what is abundant and what they need nutritionally. I think they have a greater understanding than we do of what nutritional value these trees have and the different trees have. I don't think they obviously they have a genuine chemical understanding of it, but they definitely have a physiological need for certain things, and that points them towards certain trees, I think. So when there are marula fruits around, that's a time of plenty. It's a good time to eat some sugar, get some vitamin C, and hopefully stock up on that for the rest of the year. There's not a great deal of fruit around here. That said, I don't think they eat a huge number of marula fruits. They're not like the elephants, which will go crazy on marula fruits. They will eat a few. I've seen them eating some. And of course they also like to eat bones during the winter time. They like to suck on bones, and that gives them a lot of phosphorus. Now, Dave, in Texas, you want to know, are they about, basically, how tall are they in feet? A big male is about 4.5 meters. Now, that in feet is about 16 feet, 16 or 17 feet. So a male like that, a female like this, is probably sitting at about 3 meters, Genre. What do you think? Maybe 3.2? And if we multiply that by 3 1/4, we get about 10 feet. Well done, Jean-Ray. 10 feet or so. So, Dave, that's about 10 feet. And then, Chris Rogue, you want to know about that interesting phenomenon where, for a giraffe, resting the head upright is less effort than putting it on the ground because of an arrangement of tendons in the vertebra that allow them to basically keep their heads upright. That is correct, Chris. And so for a giraffe to stick its head down to drink is not it relaxing the muscles, it's sort of contracting them so that it can pull the neck down, and then as it stops drinking and relaxes, so the head will come up to its natural resting position. And that, of course, is because a giraffe needs to keep its head upright, because its neck is so long, so it has an enormous pressure build-up in the brain if its head goes below the horizontal. There's a complex system of valves, and the heart is obviously very large in order to overcome gravity and keep the brain fed with blood. And so as soon as they put their heads down, the pressure build-up in the brain is enormous, and that's obviously no good, because nobody likes their brains to explode. Not so, Jean-Ray. Now, a lot of postulation as to the colour of the giraffe's tongue, and Gail and Sandra, you think maybe it's got something to do with sunscreen. Gail and Sandra, I would say that is unlikely, not impossible. I think it's unlikely because their tongues, of course, are mostly in the shade. It may have something to do with that, but I don't think so. I really think it's got to do... look, sometimes things are just unanswerable out here, and maybe that's one of their things, but I think it's got a lot to do with what they eat, and the fact that they do need to protect their mouths from the thorns. And a lot of animals that eat thorns, so if we look at impala as another great example, they've got very black tongues. A lot of herbivores do, and I think maybe there's some kind of covering on it that helps them to get over the thorns, and that's what that colour is. Certainly very uncat-like or undog-like. Auntie Lynn, you want to know if giraffes sneeze and can I imitate it? I've probably heard the odd giraffe sneeze. Yes, they go like this. They go... That's what they look like when they sneeze. And then one of them, you'll hear them going... You'll get them sort of saying bless you to each other in an infrasonic fashion. Let's head across to Scott. He's got some stalks. He's at Buffelshoek Dam, and I'm going to carry on down the road here. See you just now.
There's some new additions to the Egyptian goose population here at Buffelshoek Dam, and we're quite far, but I'm not sure if Tibbs is at full zoom. There is some tiny little goslings. Shame the one at the back's got a bit of a limp, but it's trying to keep up with his brothers and sisters, or her brothers and sisters. And if my abacus is working correctly, 2, 4, 6, 7. 2, 4, 6, 7, I think. Looks like 7 little goslings. Interestingly, the same amount of goslings that are at the Arethusa waterhole. So that's obviously a kind of regular size clutch for these geese. And these could well have been born yesterday or the day before. We've never seen them here, yet we have been spending a lot of time here. And as soon as geese or ducks hatch, they are capable of following their parents. They don't stay in the nest for any given period of time. From the moment they are born, they do not receive one mouthful of food from their parents. They are capable of feeding themselves. All they need is guidance from their parents, and it looks like either mom or dad is taking them for a walk, trying to tire them out so that they can have a snooze later without disturbing them. Wonderful news, and it is the time of the year where we can expect to see not only lots of baby birds, but lots of other baby mammals as well. So really looking forward to that. Other action also happening here at the waterhole. A whole bunch of woolly-necked storks, which are the ones with the white throats and black bodies, as well as a pair of saddle-billed storks. The male on the right, the female on the left. And, oh, it looks like the female just caught a little fish. Watch closely. The fishing has been incredible here at Buffelshoek Waterhole for the predatory birds. And here comes Mother Goose. Goslings in tow. Are they going to pop into the water? Look at them waddling. This is so awesome. What a magical scene. Oh, there's a fish. There we go. That's a clear catch and kill. Well done, lady. This is the female. She's got yellow eyes and lacks the yellow wattles at the base of her bill. And then, oh, look at the other parent staying with the straggler. That's so awesome. So the one goose has stayed behind the one adult to try and keep the one duckling who's got some kind of a problem with its foot. I wonder what it could be. What may well have happened is that when the little gosling was jumping out of its nest, possibly 4 or 5 meters to the ground, it maybe landed badly. And there come the rest of the youngsters running up to it. This is incredibly cute. The noise that you can hear, whap, 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 is the Egyptian geese communicating with one another. So they are certainly the most vocal of the birds here for now. As I was saying though, they nest up in trees, and as soon as the babies hatch, they need to start life with a serious leap of courage and faith, jumping out of their nest and tumbling to the ground. They are unable to fly, but I guess because their bodies are young and flexible, they typically don't get injured very often, otherwise that would be a flawed plan in their evolution. But I'm guessing that that one gosling may have possibly injured its leg whilst jumping out of the nest. Now, the goslings at Arathusa Waterhole were born, I would say, about a month ago, and they've already probably quadrupled in size. So their growth rate is fairly quick, but they will still clearly be baby goslings. Oh, can you get to see the pied kingfisher hovering there, Tebs? It's kind of just above the woolly-necked stalks to the right. There we go, you're spot on. Watch closely here. Let's see if we don't get this pied kingfisher catching a fish, or even just to see it hovering. Look at that incredible aviation skills, as well as incredible camera skills by Tebs. Look at this. Oh, what a morning for bird watching. Wow. Oh, and not one but two, a happy pair of pied kingfishers. I can't tell who's who, but you can distinguish male from female. Oh, one just lightened its load and is probably going to, or possibly going to, think about going fishing. So that is the female on the top right. She's wearing a bra. You can see those two little black spots on her chest. And the male will have a bow tie and a cummerbund. So two different sets of stripes on his chest. Here's the one below. As I was saying though, Egyptian geese growth, they'll take at least a year before they start looking like adult geese. So we are going to enjoy, or be able to enjoy, these cute fluffy goslings for quite some time. Great question through from Marianne. Seeing all these other storks here, what are the chances that they may try and snipe one of those young goslings? And with these two species here, not hugely likely, especially because Egyptian geese can be quite ferocious when it comes to defending their young. Although if there was any marabou storks here, which there were some yesterday, they would be far more inclined to take a chance. They're a bigger bird and are a little bit more open-minded when it comes to eating baby birds. The saddle-billed storks and woolly-necked storks are more inclined to feeding on fish or aquatic invertebrates, whereas marabou storks will even be seen at kills out on land where there may be carrion or carcasses to feed on. They're a lot more versatile when it comes to what they feed on. Looks like the adult goose is doing some grooming along with all of the goslings there, teaching them how to keep clean. The hippo don't seem to be doing too much, and they won't be doing too much all day. They would have spent the whole night out feeding on grass, which there's not too much of at this time of the year. A tough time for the herbivores. And the hippo not only have to worry about where they're going to get their next meal, but also they're going to be seriously concerned about the drying water sources where they like to spend their days. They're going to have less and less options as to where to hang out during the daytime, so they've got some tough times ahead. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle ever so slightly. There is one other bird that I've just spotted that's hiding behind a tree. And if I just creep forward a meter or two, then Tebs will be able to film it as well. Oh, actually two. One wasn't hiding. But this is a slightly better view. If you just look down here, closest to us, there's one of the hummerkorps. And it seems like there's a pair. There's another one that we'll show you a little bit later. Now, we've just got a question through from Ria, and it's a good one. She would like to know if these storks will do their breeding here in South Africa, or do they migrate elsewhere and breed somewhere else in the winter. And these storks that we see here are not migratory storks. The saddle-billed stork and the woolly-necked stork do not migrate. It's just the white stork that will migrate. And that goes all the way up to Europe, where they nest on chimneys in urban areas. The white storks haven't arrived in South Africa yet that I've seen. And there's another stork called an Abdim's stork, but it's an intra-African migrant. It doesn't go as far as Mediterranean Europe. And the rest of the storks we get are here year-round. Like I said earlier, the marabou stork is another stork that we see here from time to time. If you just zoom in onto the storks on the kind of left, the fish that they're catching are so small that it only takes a few seconds for them to gobble them up. But one of those storks did catch a fish a little bit earlier. Oh, the saddleboard stalk's got one now to the right. That one you should be able to get to, Tebs. To the right, Tebs. Oh, just swallowed it. Far right now, Tebs, on the water's edge. That's a slightly bigger fish. Far right. There we go. It's busy trying to kill it. I'm not too sure what kind of fish. Oh, look at this. This is incredible. It's using, because it's a slightly bigger fish, it's trying to kill it before it swallows it. With the smaller fish, they'll swallow them alive. Not a good way to go. Now, I can't see whether this is a tilapia or a catfish. It's looking more like a tilapia. And it's trying its best to kill it before. Risky business, doing it in the water, woolly neck stalk. I would advise taking it off the water to try and do this. It does look like a tilapia. It's going to be interesting to see it try and swallow this one. That's better. Out onto dry land. And it's always quite entertaining watching birds try and swallow prey that they've caught that's a little bit too big for them. So this is going to be a good one. It wasn't too long ago when pied kingfishers, possibly the same two that we had a glimpse of earlier, one of them caught a massive fish and it just sat with it for kind of, I think, half an hour or 45 minutes. We sat waiting patiently to see if it would try and swallow it, and eventually we had to leave to go and see what else was going on, and never knew the final outcome to whether it swallowed it or... Oh, here goes. Is it going to try? No, not quite ready yet. Shame the fish are not in a fortunate position at the moment. Well, I guess these ones are lucky. A lot of the other waterholes have dried up long ago and the fish within them have all been fed on already. And what I find fascinating is how quickly the bush telegraph sends word that there is a great opportunity to feed here, as it's drying up to a point where the fish don't have many hiding places. And I wouldn't be surprised if we come back here this afternoon and there's even more birds around. It's possibly worth doing a count while we watch that one try and swallow its prey. I'm going to just count how many woolly neck stalks there are, and there's 3 in frame, and out of frame there's another 2, 4, 6, 8. So 8 woolly neck stalks. It'll be interesting to see if there's any more this afternoon. I think there were about this number yesterday. But there were also 3 marabou stalks. Marabou stalks tend to have lazy mornings. They don't get active very early on, so I'm not surprised that they aren't here at the moment. They'll probably come in for brunch. What has happened with that stalk? Did it manage to swallow the fish? What has happened, or is the fish still floating there? I think I may see the fish still... Oh no, that's a feather the one stalk picked up. So what? I wonder what happened. I lost focus there. If any of you did see the stalk swallow the fish, let us know. Oh no, it's still there. They've still got it. Maybe another one's going to try and attempt to swallow it now. The marabou stalk would have no problem doing this. Hello to Chris, and thank you for your compliments to both the pied kingfisher for their incredible display of aerial acrobatics, as well as to Teb's camera work doing such a great job keeping you in the right place to enjoy those beautiful scenes. And now the saddleboard's got a fish Can you believe it? It is a time of plenty for these birds. And I think they've just left that other tilapia on the water's edge. Can you believe it? Those woolly-necked storks are still not too sure what to do with it, but there we go. The saddle-billed stork managed to swallow its smaller fish that it just caught. Now let's see if the saddle-billed stork doesn't catch kind of wind of what's going on with those woolly-necked. Oh, look on the right here. This is a pleasant surprise. A hyena. Looks like a kind of slightly younger hyena. It's in great condition. You can still see its spots quite clearly. Doesn't have any major notches or scars in its ear, although it does have one or two scars on its rump. And its backside is very wet. It's obviously been sitting in the water without us even noticing. Been so focused on the birds, and it's coming right up to us here. Good morning. What would you like from us? We've got no snacks on this vehicle. What a surprise. Well, it's coming over to greet Tibbs. Very well-mannered hyena, this. There's its wet bottom. It's been sitting in the mud. And as we explained yesterday with Wild Dog, who also don't mind getting wet, hyena are another animal that are happy to wallow in the mud. Wouldn't it be incredible to know what sense it's processing with that extremely powerful sense of smell? It's probably smelling the wild dog that were here not so long ago this morning. James tracked them from this area. And it's not uncommon for a hyena to follow the scent of other predators, like wild dog, like leopard, with the knowledge that if they follow that scent trail for long enough, they should eventually get to some form of a kill. Even if it is only the scraps and leftovers that the wild dog have left, that may well be more than enough to constitute a good meal for a hyena that has bone-crushing jaws that are capable of getting through parts of a carcass that wild dogs wouldn't even think of beginning to feed on. It's just moved off into a very thick area, so we're going to leave it to its business, and I don't think we're going to get any better views than what we just had as it came up and greeted us. So we can now return to the birds and back to Chris's question and comments. She, on the topic of kingfisher, was very, very excited by the prospect of the return of the woodlands kingfisher. And Chris, thanks for that reminder. We are really looking forward to their return. Any day now, they could surprise us. They've got an incredible call. Chick, brrr, is my hopeless impersonation of their call. In the book, it is mentioned as a loud trilling song, descending and fading. And I have got the book out here to show you a picture of a woodlands kingfisher so that you can all be ready to see this beautiful bird. The woodlands kingfisher on the bottom here isn't actually given justice by this picture. Old Ronald Cook is the guy who painted it. A far better painting than I would ever be able to do, so well done, Ronald. But I feel that the colors you used are not quite right. This electric turquoise blue isn't quite electric turquoise in the painting, whereas in real life it is a beautiful, like I say, electric turquoise blue. So we're going to be seeing these in the next couple of days even. They could arrive. So one of the later migrants to return. Good. Well, let's see what's happening with the storks. They seem to be on the go slow now after already having fed on so many fish. Bless, excuse. And Anna Marie has just mentioned that she has a great sighting of a grey heron at Pete's Pond, where there's another 24-hour-a-day waterhole camera. And according to Anne-Marie, this grey heron caught quite a large fish and it almost choked on it. It almost didn't survive swallowing its meal. And that must have been great to watch, Anne-Marie. You do get spoiled with some wonderful sightings out here. Tebbs has found the goslings. And what I would really love is for them to go for a little swim. It's often quite beautiful to watch. What will happen is one adult will lead. The rest of the goslings will follow closely, almost in a slipstream or in a wake, with the other adult following up from the rear. So that could well happen. But maybe it's a little bit cool this morning. Oh, look at Tebbs. He's onto the pied kingfisher again. Oh, great work, Tebbs. And again, just couldn't commit. That's the female again. There's another tiny bird just in front of it called a three-banded plover. And it, interestingly enough, also had a few chicks that I've forgotten about. They had two tiny chicks, the three-banded plovers, last time I checked. A couple of days back, so we must keep an eye out for them. There's another bird that we haven't discussed yet, the blacksmith lapwing, which was formerly a plover, now it's become a lapwing. And it looks like the three-banded plover is having a little bath. Well, earlier on we were discussing the... Okay, another bird has just popped onto the equation. And excuse me for my excitement, but it's incredibly pretty. Tebbs, what I'm going to ask is if you could just... Can you see where these ripples are? Just over there. If you can just keep the camera filming in that area there, right where my finger is. Just keep zooming in there, so that should do. And a little bit to the left, and down. Perfect. Let's just stay there for a few seconds. Now, this is a huge gamble, but what happened just a few seconds ago when I shouted excitedly was a malachite kingfisher plummeted into the water there. And I don't think it was for a fish. I think it was to have a bath. And usually what they'll do is they'll fly in repeatedly about 3 or 4 times into the same spot, almost exactly the same spot when they are bathing. But like I say, it could be that one plunge was enough this time. So let's rather get Tebbs onto the pied kingfisher, which is hovering again. The two of them have just landed on that same little stump, Tebbs. Slap bang in the center of your... There we go. So it's stopped. I am going to keep an eye on whether this malachite kingfisher doesn't come for another swim. If not, I'll try and reposition the vehicle to get you some views of it. It's a tiny but a really, really beautiful kingfisher. Bright oranges and purples and blues. Oh, there you go. Well done, Tebbs. That's better. Has it got one? Yes, it does. Can you believe our luck? Kill after kill. And it was the female that was successful there. Again, you can see her brassiere that she's wearing, and now the male has decided it's his time to also go and get some breakfast. What an incredible hunter, these kingfishers. Well, can you believe this high-intensity bird-watching session here at the Buffelshoek Waterhole? For those of you who are not ordinarily birders, you cannot help but enjoy the action that we are getting spoilt with here. So often people love watching animals hunt, and we are getting non-stop hunting action here from the storks, now the kingfishers, and that's one of their favorite perches up there. That's where they spend the majority of their time. You can hear the quang call of a go-away bird that's also arrived at the waterhole. They're coming down for a drink, just to the right of where that female kingfisher was, Tebs, with the kill on that stump. There's the go-away bird there. Coming for a muddy cappuccino. And I'm not sure how many birds you guys are on so far, so let's count through it. We've got the pied kingfishers, the woolly-necked storks, the grey go-away bird, three-banded plover, blacksmith. Hold on, my abacus is broken again. But while I try and start to count and work out how many birds we have seen here this morning, we are going to play you a short slow-motion video. This doesn't happen very often, only for special moments, and the moment that is going to be slowed down for you is the kingfisher plummeting into the water. So enjoy the video, and we'll catch you on the other end. Awesome, I'm sure you guys enjoyed that, and straight back into regular speed live kingfisher hunting action. So I'm going to attempt to try and count again. There's so much going on here that I'm getting distracted, but the pied kingfisher, the three-banded plover, the blacksmith lapwing, Egyptian goose, woolly-necked stork, saddle-billed stork, hammerkop, 7. So we've got 7 birds here already so far. I'm not sure if there's any that I've missed. The malachite kingfisher I do hope to show you shortly. Oh, the kingfisher just went back into the little spot again. I'll show you the little ripples there. There are the ripples. And I can't resist this anymore. We're going to have to take a short little drive and see if we can find it for you. So, I just want to kind of poke my nose down this little bank here. Let's hope our signal stays strong. I'll just stop here. It's going to be possibly difficult for Tebs to level the camera. The malachite kingfisher kept going and landing in this buffalo thorn tree, which is to our left, and I can't seem to see it at first glance looking through my binoculars. So let's creep a little bit further down. Again, it's a gamble. As we head lower down here, the signal could cause trouble for us, but I think it's a risk worth taking. Because if we get you some views of this bird, you are going to be incredibly happy, well, at least I think you should be. Okay, I can... Oh, this is going to be tricky. But I'm going to talk Tebs through it. So Tebs, if you can zoom into my finger there, just right into the bush. Keep zooming straight in there. And now we need to stop and scan a little bit. It's somewhere in here. I can see it through my binoculars, but looking through... Oh, there it is. Slap bang in the center. Zoom straight in. Now I can see a little bit of movement. You can probably see just a tiny bit of movement in the center of your screen. That is a malachite kingfisher. Obviously, we're going to need to get you a better view, but let's just stay on that spot. So I'm going to reposition. No. There we go. Right hand side of your screen. And if you just zoom in now, there we go. Look at this. And this bird is tiny, probably only 1.5 inches long. The buffalo thorn tree that it's sitting in only has very small leaves. So it may give you some perspective. Look at that electric blue on its back. They are so incredible, these malachite kingfishers. And they could well have a nest here. I remember a pair of them nesting somewhere around this waterhole last year. They nest in small cavities in the banks surrounding waterholes. Just going to try and creep forward a little bit more to give Tibbs a better view. Tibbs, you can stay zoomed in there. That's perfect. Oh, off it goes. Well, wasn't that an awesome little bird? And Gail, I'm very happy to hear that we are slowly converting you into a bird watcher. If you enjoy them at the right times like this, it's a good kind of foot in the door in terms of ornithology. A lot of the time, I must agree, it can be quite tedious and boring, but a morning like this is a good way to get involved with bird watching. And like I say, thanks, Gail. Happy to hear that you're enjoying it. And very, very kind remarks and comments. We're going to get back onto a kind of slightly different area now and see if we can get you a different view of what's going on here. And while we do that, we're going to send you across to James for an update.
So, from one malachite kingfisher to, well, a wildebeest. There is no possible link between the two. Not even 5 degrees of separation could possibly link them. It does have an oxpecker on its back, though. Well, the reason we're here is not necessarily for that lonely wildebeest bull, but indeed because we've come down to the waterhole here in front of Juma Camp. And in front of in the waterhole, there's my head, I'm just hiding from the camera, thank you, Andre, for that. There is a hippopotamus in this very small little waterhole, and the zebra keep trying to come down and drink, and every time he moves towards them, they run away in a bit of a panic. And they're obviously very thirsty, and as you can see, lots and lots of competition for water in this area for the animals that really need it. And this hippopotamus, as the water becomes more and more scarce throughout the place, will become that much more defensive about being in the water. I don't think he'd try and cause trouble if there was something like an elephant here. And I think, Jean-Andre, you mentioned that there were elephants down trying to drink here yesterday with him. But the zebra will be wary of a hippo. And you can see them trying now, they're thinking about coming down again. But every time he moved, there were 2 or 3 of them drinking, every time he kind of shifted towards them, they'd leap off. I think they're also probably a bit uneasy because it's breezy, and that generally makes them a little uneasy. Here we go, this is quite interesting. So while we're watching to see if the zebra is brave enough, here he goes. There we go. Oh, no, a bit nervous. Marianne, you've seen this hippo now on this ridiculously small piece of water, and you want to know how far a hippo will be able to walk should the need arise. Should they come to a point where their normal waterhole dries out. Marianne, they can travel apparently up to 50 kilometers, which of course is a long way. That is roughly 30 miles, and they'll do that at night. So that's a pretty long way. And they'll move distances in the day as well, but they definitely have the ability to move substantial distances. Heat and sun are the major things that will affect their ability to move. So we're going to wait here just for a little while and see what those zebra do. Here comes another one, trying to see if he can have a drink. Little bit of sun coming out now, breaking through the clouds, and as soon as the sun does hit us, it's very warm indeed. A bit of a standoff, and these standoffs often in the wild don't tend to be particularly exciting until the actual action begins. There's a lot of patience and thinking and consideration before any moves are made. They may just give up eventually, but they do have to drink, you see. Zebra, along with impala, wildebeest, extremely water-dependent species. While we're watching this, let's go back to a swimming lesson with Scott. We'll keep...
Well, it looks like we're about to get lucky. Are the goslings going to go for a swim? The pied kingfishers are sitting there like lifeguards on their lookout stand. But there is a possibility that the geese and its goslings are just coming down to the water's edge for a drink. And possibly in this slightly cool, overcast weather, the adult doesn't think it's a good idea to take the kids swimming. Isn't this just so cute? Shame there's old Hopalong at the back there. There's a little bit of swimming going on. One of the goslings is kind of testing it out. There's a swimmer there now. And like I said, they could only be 24 hours old. And I don't like to speculate ages of animals unless I'm confident about them. And like I say, because we do spend so much time here and we haven't seen these goslings yet, it could mean that they are that young. As soon as they hatched, they would have been brought straight to the water's edge, where they'll do the pregeometry of their feeding. And you can see that amongst these youngsters, there's already one that's kind of braver than the rest, testing out its little flippers, its webbed feet. Oh, Tebbs was on the action there and got the kingfisher, which has caught another fish. Well done, Tebbs. This could be interesting. It looks like a fairly large fish for the kingfisher. So it may be worth keeping an eye on this kingfisher, because we could get some entertainment as it tries to swallow this large prey. Doesn't look too big, but I do think that it's going to at least have to dispatch of it properly, make sure it's dead before it swallows it, and you can see it's doing that now. It's trying to batter it against that little stump. Not an easy business. I mean, remember that fish are slippery, and it's clamped onto it with just its beak. So it's certainly showing us the control and skill it has in order to be able to control its beak and clamp down on that fish while it clobbers it against that stump without losing it, without it slipping out of its grasp. Hello, Vernie in Zimbabwe. And a very interesting fact that you've just brought to the table here. Vernie's heard that pied kingfishers are the largest birds that can hover. But I'm not too sure if that's true, Vernie. Like you say, there's also the giant kingfisher, which we do see occasionally in this area. They do occur here, but find they're more typically along the major rivers in the Sabi Sands. And they certainly can hover, as well as a lot of birds of prey. A lot of harriers and hawks, the black-shouldered kites, are very good at hovering. Oh, this woolly-necked stork's coming with purpose. Really knows what he wants for breakfast, or she. Difficult to distinguish between the two. The old kingfisher's still having a tough time trying to dispatch of this kill. So, Vernie, interesting that you brought this up. I don't think it's entirely true, though. I've known of lots of other birds that are great at hovering, and like you say, even the giant kingfisher within this same bird's family can hover very well. So, interesting fact, but I don't know how plausible it is. Here's the female saddle-billed stork. Now that we're a bit closer, you'll see that she's got a yellow eye. The male has got a black eye and also a bright yellow wattle below its beak. Gives you a good indication of the size difference we're dealing with here with these two birds. Both incredibly good hunters. One using the technique of wallowing through the water or wading through the water in search of their prey. Oh, what's going on there? What are you chasing after, saddle-billed stork? Not too sure what it was after there. Certainly running after something. And not an easy job for Tebs on camera, because obviously when there's so many things going on, it's difficult to know where to film. But I think he's doing a great job in picking the right moments of action to swivel you across to. Looks like the kingfisher is about to try to swallow that fish, Tibbs. Let's see if it will in fact succeed. Oh, just about down, I think. And you can see its beak's kind of stuck open. Oh, it just regurgitated it. Couldn't get it down that time. Obviously not happy with the fact that the fish could still be alive, I'm guessing, and that's why it's going in for a few more wallops to try and complete the coup de grace here. Ellen has just asked whether it's possible that the kingfisher would... Oh, there's another swallow. Will it get it down? Sorry, Ellen. If these pied kingfishers would attack the goslings at all. And I find it highly, highly unlikely. Oh, it managed to swallow it. That looks good. It may need to shake its head from side to side in order to get it all the way down. There we go. Job well done, Mrs. Pied Kingfisher. And I'm sure she's probably going to sit there for a while now. as her stomach begins to deal with that massive catch that she's just swallowed. To give you an idea of size, the pied kingfisher is not too much bigger than those little goslings, so it would be picking on a prey item that's literally too big to chew on. And the pied kingfisher, the giant kingfisher and the malachite kingfisher are three of the kingfishers that will strictly only eat fish or aquatic animals like frogs, whereas the other kingfishers' names are misleading. The woodlands kingfisher, the striped kingfisher, the brown-headed kingfisher, just to name a few, the African pygmy kingfisher, are all woodland kingfishers that only feed on insects and also possibly, excuse me, small rodents and reptiles. So those kingfishers, can you believe it? Has she caught another one, or has she just gone for a little refreshing dip? I think she's just gone for a refreshing dip. As I was saying, a lot of the kingfishers will feed strictly on animals that live out of the water, whereas the minority of kingfishers are actually fishermen. So the name is a little bit misleading as a species. Now Remay, you have brought up a very good point in terms of who could feed on the goslings. There are some terrapins that live in this waterhole. They usually don't show themselves very clearly, but I'm using my binoculars to try and find you one. None are clearly evident, but basically freshwater turtle. And Remay, you spot on. A terrapin would happily predate and feed on a little gosling. So that will be a concern for the Egyptian geese parents. A lot of them are possibly a little bit too small to be taken.
We are just driving along here. I think Scott obviously has a problem with his signal issues, and Wendy, it's not Scott, it's Wendy, of course, the recalcitrant old girl that she is. We've come into the area where Karula's tracks were spotted this morning. What do you see, Jean-Andre? Jean-Andre thought he smelt something there. He thought he may have smelt some cat dung. So we've come into the area, like I was saying, where Karula was seen yesterday evening, and we will try and find her. She is, to be honest, a phantom leopard, and when she doesn't want to be seen, she simply isn't seen. Yesterday evening, I was out tracking with Jean-Andre, and we probably walked within, I'd say within 5 or 10 meters of her, and we didn't see her. Now, while that may well have to do with my lack of bush skill, I think it's got a lot more to do with the fact that Karula is extremely good at hiding herself when she doesn't wish to be viewed. Anyway, Jamie is around here as well. She's also looking for Karula. We had fresh tracks this morning coming into this area, so maybe we will be lucky. What worries me, though, is that she is now again further to the east of her territorial boundary with Shadow. Well, she's right on that boundary. We haven't seen Shadow for a while, and I wonder if she has perhaps remains in estrus because she hasn't conceived with Tingana, and maybe she is seeking him out yet again. And for those of you who haven't been watching, Karula, an 11-year-old female leopard, certainly has been mating a lot of late with Tingana, 3 times in the last sort of 6 weeks, or maybe a month. And that's a huge number of times to have been mated by one male and not conceived. So I don't know why, maybe why she's perhaps still this far east in her territory. I think it would be a much better bet if she sought out Mvula and tried to produce another repeat performance of Quarantine and Kunuma, those 2 magnificent little male leopards who are now making their way as independents north and south of us, as far as we understand. Just to keep you posted on the dogs did manage to kill on Torchwood. They killed, I think, a duiker. It would not have gone very far at all amongst all of them. But they did manage to have themselves a meal today. Then the Nkahua Pride is sitting on Bubble's Hook on a buffalo kill, so that's very good. I don't know if Junior is with them. It sounds like he probably is, especially if they're killing buffalo. And then the Styx Pride, and I don't know how many of the Styx Pride again are on Chitwa. They also are eating a buffalo. The whereabouts of the marauding Birmingham boys, I couldn't tell you. And likewise, the Matimbas seem to be doing quite a lot of settling down just to the south of us, Londolozi, and we'll keep you posted on their movements as well. At the moment, Juma is a lion-free zone, however. And then we do know, as you all know, we've lost, or the Solala Pride has lost one of their males. And that was shortly after a meeting with the Birmingham boys. And Vincent, Texas, you want to know what I think has happened to him. I think that the general consensus will be that he's been killed by them. Very sad. Unfortunately, that's just how it seems to go out here. Especially to see, I mean, those three young fellows were really enjoyable to watch. But I suspect that those Birmingham boys just simply wouldn't have tolerated them, and maybe they just didn't manage to get away in time. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say, yeah, probably been killed, Vince, I'm afraid. I think that would be the general consensus from certainly the presenters here. But we might be wrong, might just be in hiding. It was quite a windy night, and I'm just watching the road carefully. Interesting question here that interesting question that dovetails with what I was looking at. I was looking at what looked like to be a young hyena track on the road. And virtual tourists, you want to know if we get aardwolf here. Now, for those of you who don't know, an aardwolf is a part of the hyena family. A very small hyena, like one of those sort of sub-adults we sometimes see. And virtual tourists, you want to know if we get them in the Sabi Sands. I don't think so. There may have been one or two records. I've certainly never seen one here. And they're more a desert species. And I think in the presence of spotted hyenas, they probably don't occur a huge amount. And so, no, not really aardwolf here. All right, Scott's found another magnificent bird. Let's head across to him, and I'll be following on here.
So we've repositioned in search of better signal, which I'm fairly certain we have now, at least for the time being. Isn't it bizarre how when we didn't even move, we lost signal? It gives you an idea of what our tech wizards are up against here. This is the male kingfisher that we're looking at. You sadly can't see his breast, otherwise I'd be able to point out that bow tie and cummerband that distinguishes him from the female. I've got some good news. I think another bird has just landed at the water's edge, kind of at 9 o'clock, Tebs, just below us here. And it's a bright little yellow bird. If you just zoom into the water's edge right there, close to us here, just zoom right in, and then left a bit. I'll talk you through it. Left a bit more, keep zooming in, left a bit more. There we go. It's a tiny little bird, but it is in your shot. If you go a little bit more to the left, there's one that's more out in the open, Tebs. Oh, they've both just flown off. But those were yellow-fronted canaries. So, another bird to add to the Buffalo's Hook list for this morning, the yellow-fronted canary. And James has found some mammals that he would like to show you. Enjoy.
From the beautiful, subtle to the perhaps not so beautiful and definitely unsubtle warthogs. Look at these lovely things. That is a young boar in front. I think that's probably a sibling from a litter before, and bringing up the rear is the sow in this interesting little sounder. I think she's probably the mother of both of them, if I was to guess. While the boar is getting there, he's a sub-adult. He's not quite at full size. There's the sow. It's quite nice to see them like this, you know. They so often don't sort of allow us to watch them for very long. These guys are walking very comfortably just around the side of us. There we go. You can maybe even hear them going tick, 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 tick through the bush. Lovely. They'll be off. They stopped right here to eat a little bit. They won't be very comfortable with us. We'll try and go back a little bit. I suspect as soon as I start the engine, though, they're going to run away. They'll have a go. Yeah, look at that. They didn't run away. They're going into some thick bush now, so I think we'll leave them be. Marvellous to have a gentle warthog sighting like that. They do normally run off, like I say. We'll carry on our quest for Kurula. There we go. Marvellous. On we go. So we're on the far western boundary now, or just about. The boundary's just over there, of Djuma, and Arathusa is to the west of us. And I'm sure they'll keep us posted as to whether perhaps dear Kurula has headed across there in search of Tingana again. And I will keep looking at the ground. Now, we've spoken quite a lot recently about Tingana and his perhaps lack of fertility. And Siberia, Zuma, you want to know if the Anderson male can sense his lack of fertility and might therefore come and incur into his territory. Siberia, I've got absolutely no doubt in my mind that he will be none the wiser. So I don't think that you'll find some very interesting tracks here. I think that they're young hyenas. I don't think that, in fact I know that the Anderson male will have no idea whether Tingana is fertile or not, and that will play no role, even if he did know, on whether he comes into the territory or not. That will purely be defined by size and age. Sorry, I'm just looking here. There are other wild dog tracks here, you know. They might be from yesterday, though. They're not fresh, but there are definitely some wild dog tracks on this road. I wonder if the Investec pack isn't around here somewhere. That would be exciting. So Siberia, whether or not Tingana is able to hold his territory will have a lot, almost entirely to do with his age, his condition. Even if he was completely infertile and had never sired a cub in his life, it would make no difference to whether he held on to his territory or not. As I said to you when we were last with you, we just had confirmation that the wild dogs have killed a duiker on Torchwood and finished it already. And I don't think it would have been much of a meal to them at all. I think it would have been a very meager taking for breakfast for all those dogs. A daiku is only about 17 kilograms, and if you're a wild dog eating it, there'll be 1 or 2 bits and pieces that you can't eat, so probably about, say, 12 kilos of meat mixed amongst 20 dogs is really not very big at all. So no leopard tracks at this stage, but that's okay. We don't want to spoil ourselves too much. It's nice to have spent a bit more time with Karula. I mean, until the last few weeks, I'd only seen her once. 6 months, which I thought was very unfair. Some kudus. Very close by kudus. And they're just happily feeding there. This youngster, it just takes one to panic them. I had a question a little while back about whether the antelope here have got white on the bottom of their tails, like say some of the deer in the United States do, that helps them to, keep in contact, visual contact when they're running through the bush. And you've just seen there that those kudu absolutely do have those white tails, and as soon as they run, they flick them up, and that helps them to follow each other. Lovely kudu. We'll just sneak a little bit forward. They are the most magnificent animals. Now, they're eating something different. They were eating a bit of variable bush willow. Now they're eating white berry bush, but there are no berries on that white berry bush just yet. Now, that squawking noise you can hear is some magpie shrikes who are alarm calling. Oh, there's what the way they were alarm calling at. There's a raptor flying there. A bird of prey. From this distance, I'm afraid I won't be able to tell what it is. It looked like one of the hawks. Perhaps a dark chanting goshawk, maybe. And they would have made a big noise and then got a fright. But it's interesting, as soon as they started to alarm call, those kudu looked up immediately to see what was going on, in case they'd seen something more of a threat to the kudu. A goshawk is obviously unlikely to run off with a kudu in his talons. No berries, like I say, on the bush just yet. But the leaves are obviously very nutritious for some animals, and those kudu are just such animals. I'm going to look at the one on the termite mound there, Jean, and see what he's eating. He's eating little pieces of knobthorn. We were discussing tongue colour just now, or a bit earlier, and how a lot of the herbivores out here tend to have very black tongues, and the kudu are no exception. And I think it's got something to do with the nasty thorns that they have to eat, or certainly that they have to negotiate in order to get sufficient leaves. Anyway, beautiful morning. So nice to have a break in that nuclear heat that we've had. Continue to be astonished at the Meteorological Society's inability to vaguely predict the weather here. They're very relaxed, these chaps. Beautiful. So that's a young kudu. Probably, how old? I'd say probably about 6 to 7 months old, I would say. And you can just see that kudu are not necessarily as seasonal breeders as the impala, maybe a little bit older than that, maybe 10 months. They would have been born sort of as the dry season began. Constantly listening all the time. Very skittish are the kudu. Anyway, I can't hear any further alarm calls here, so I think we'll push on up this road and see if we cannot pick up a few further tracks of Kurula. The peaceful one. I'm always amazed, like I think I've said many times before, at the sense of how in the dawn there's this tremendous sense of expectancy, and you find the dogs and everything's frenetic activity, and people are driving all over the place, the radio's going wild, the animals are running away, and then you get to this stage of the day, which of course is still very early, but it's obviously been light now for what, almost 2.5 hours, and everything has calmed down. There's just a real change in the energy around the place. And we're looking at those kudu, which are very relaxed. Well, for kudu, I don't know that they're ever truly totally relaxed. The wild dogs will go and have a snooze now in the shade. Jamie's driving very slowly in front of us. Everything is at a general peace at the moment. Hello, Jamie. How are you? Good, fine, full of joy.
Morning, everybody.
Have you found the leopard yet?
No, I found a leopard tortoise, though.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
Sweet.
Well done.
I think she's probably watched me walk past her about that.
Right. Is this your shoe?
No.
No.
No, it's not my shoe.
Okay, I found a shoe, everybody, in here this morning, and it looked about Jamie-sized. I might use it myself, actually. All right, on we go.
I've been in the boat.
Okay.
Alright, I'll go that way. I'll go walk again.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll quickly go across to Scott. He's got a baby elephant. Bye-bye.
Oh, this is incredibly cute. There's a tiny little baby elephant with its mother, and it got a bit of a fright when we arrived onto the scene, and it ran into a fallen down silver cluster leaf tree, and it got entirely tangled in it, which was incredibly funny. And let's see if it doesn't provide us with a bit more humor. Just need to reposition quickly. Because it is a very small calf, we are going to be very delicate and sensitive with how close we get, and we'll slowly just nudge our way or edge our way into the sighting. The mother hasn't even given us a glimpse yet, so I don't think we have to worry about her, but always better to err on the side of caution with elephant calves, especially when they've got young calves like this. They're moving away from us, so what I'm going to try my best to do is get ahead of them. And we are actually familiar with this herd, and a lot of you who follow the show closely will know why. If we just take a closer look at this individual here quickly, some of you have named her Fang, and her tusk grows the wrong way. So she helps us to distinguish this herd from others, and we have noticed the tiny little calf within this herd on previous occasions. I'm just going to reposition again. I want to try and get ahead of them, and that will allow them to feed up to us. But maybe what we'll do is actually just wait right here, because we've got a very clear view of the big mother and the little calf. So what we'll do is we'll just keep waiting here and see if we don't get any better views. Well, this is a very calm and peaceful sighting, especially in comparison to the elephant sightings we had yesterday. Whilst on the live safari we had the great entertainment of the wild dog giving a few different elephants a run around and a bit of a hard time. The elephants got very worked up with the wild dogs and chased them off. But Marco in New Jersey didn't only cash in on the action on the live drives, but also on the Djuma waterhole camera. And 6 adults returned or made their way to the Djuma waterhole in order to try and have a drink. And the elephants were chasing the dogs backwards and forwards, preventing them from doing so. And Marco would just like to know a little bit more about that behavior that he witnessed. I didn't get to see that behavior, Marco, but I did hear about it and could imagine exactly what went down. Basically, even though elephants have got a very unlikely chance of being predated on by any of the African carnivores, even lion, who are at the top of the food chain, they don't really like them. So, because lions will kind of tease, as well as wild dogs will tease elephants and kind of harass them, running around very quickly, sneaking up on them, giving them a fright. Elephants dislike them and chase them. I guess elephants are also very clever animals and know that lions and wild dogs kill other animals. They'll stumble upon kills, they will smell the death, they'll smell the blood and even see the death. And they're not huge fans of killing elephants. They are vegetarians, as you can clearly see, and therefore basically just have a dislike for any predators and will go out of their way, surprisingly enough, to chase them. I've been in sightings where elephant can smell predators before they can even see them, and by using their sense of smell they'll get even closer to the predators until they do lock eyes on them, and then they'll chase them off. So there's just a bit of kind of natural competition out here in Africa, and kind of rivalry, you could say, between the herbivores and the carnivores. I'm just going to reposition again and try and get us some slightly better views. One thing that will also happen, especially in very dry times of year, the baby's just about to cross in front of us, is that during a drought, isn't this so cute? It wants to have a drink. Look at that, it has to climb up its mother's leg to get to the nipple. Can you believe it? It's that short. Just going to creep forward ever so slightly. See if we can get a better angle. Go. That should work well. As we wait for this calf to attempt to take another drink, I can continue mentioning what I was saying just before, and that is that elephants will also be bullies at waterholes, especially in times of drought when they will be the biggest and the strongest at a very small point, where all the animals will have to queue to drink. And Laura mentioned that she actually got to see elephants spraying the queuing impala with water, almost teasing them, and not unlike elephant behavior. And glad you got to see that, Laura. It's a great way to be out in Africa whilst we aren't on drive, so it's definitely worth tuning into the live waterhole camera at either Djuma or Arathusa. And there are many others that you can also tune into, so that is worth investigating. if you haven't already done that. That robotic bird call that you can hear was from those birds that just flew off from there. They were fork-tailed drongos. They've just disappeared, but it's quite nice to point out the animals responsible for the noises you are hearing. There's also a few Cape turtle doves calling around us, but I can't see them, so I can't show them to you. They're one of the most vocal of all the birds in this area and are almost always calling. Quite a large herd, and the mother there got quite worked up. I'm not too sure why or what caused her to. She moved off to the side, leaving her youngster alone. There's Fang in the foreground. Doesn't she just have the most bizarre tusk structure, one forward, one back? She does have to kind of walk a little bit strangely like a cowgirl because of that. You can see how it tucks back into her front elbow. So she does have to kind of walk a little bit differently, but she's in great health and she's got used to using it as a feeding tool. And if I can just ask Tibbs to zoom in on the tip of that tusk. It's tricky as she moves around, but keep on the tip of that, the bottom tip of that other tusk, and you'll see a very distinctive groove. Now you can see it. And that's from pulling branches over that tusk and breaking them, using it as kind of a lever for snapping twigs. So that indicates to me that she's kind of right-handed or right-tusked, more dominant at least than a left tusk, which doesn't have a deep groove in it. And you can see these grooves not necessarily as prominent as this one, but also on other elephants. Just going to reposition again quickly. Let's hope we're not stuck here. Disappeared down a hole of some description. One of the eddies is displaying its disgust in my driving abilities, trumpeting at me. Now, I mentioned earlier that lions will not even be able to feed on elephants, typically. But that was a bit of a broad generalization, and Vernie has just alerted me to the fact that lions will occasionally feed on elephants, and it has happened in the Savuti area. So you're right, Vernie, there are very few and isolated cases of extremely large prides of lion feeding on elephants. And Vernie would like to know kind of my thoughts as to why and what would cause this. It's not normal, but every now and then it does happen. Vernie, I guess if you do get a massive pride of lions, because they have many miles to feed, they will adapt to those conditions. And let's remember, these prides that were hunting those elephants in the Savuti area were 30 adults plus, if I'm not mistaken. So an incredible amount of power comes with 30 lion, and that power allows them to hunt abnormally large prey. That, coupled with the fact that there are huge elephant numbers in Botswana, especially in that Savuti area, as well as the fact that I think it was a very dry season, and elephants were having to come to very select water points where the lions could almost wait in ambush for them and pick off the weakening elephants. So strange things do happen in nature, and it's important for all of us to remember that. Everything you hear from any guide or any naturalist, they will be talking about the general rule. there are always exceptions to the general rule. And you'll probably find that on a very strange scenario, one dark night in Africa, even a leopard, maybe even a female leopard, has caught a baby elephant and sniped it from its parents without its parents even knowing what happened. These things all could happen. I hear the fork-tailed drongos, the birds that were making the robotic sound earlier, and it looks like it's caught an insect. It has. Hard to tell what it is, some kind of a flying insect. You can see the wings sticking out on the side there. And fork-tailed drongos are specialists in moving alongside large herbivores like these elephants, waiting for them to chase up some little insects, and then what the fork-tailed drongo will often fly in and catch that fleeing insect on the wing. Just going to reposition again this little calf. I'm desperate to try and get you some good views of it, but they keep moving out of view. But thanks, Vernie. Thanks for pointing that out. It's important. We should get some great views now as they move along. Oh, come and say good morning to us, please. Please come. Please come. Keep coming. Come on. Come on. Come and say hello. Oh, no. I thought twice about that. Bad idea. Back to the safety of being not at Mommy's side, but temporarily underneath Mommy. No one is going to mess with the baby elephant when it's standing right underneath its mother. That was very, very cute, and glad we finally got a great view of that calf. Like I said, when we arrived onto the scene, when we first stumbled upon these elephants, the calf had obviously strayed a little bit further than normal away from its mother, and it came rushing towards Mom, but there was a small fallen down silver cluster leaf tree that it got completely tangled in, and it was in a bit of a state of panic. So now Mum's just turned around and hasn't shaken her head, hasn't done anything serious, but she's just changed her body facing towards us, which was an indication to me that it was time to stop the vehicle. Had she had carried on feeding without doing anything, I probably would have been able to creep forward a few meters, but I just listened to that very subtle body language from her to prevent her getting worked up, because we really would not want to do that. She is a massive, massive animal, and if we got on the wrong side of her, it could end in a very nasty scenario. So it's always best to watch animals very closely, and I mean, it's no different to human body language. If you are getting too close to a human who was busy eating its meal and all of a sudden they stopped and kind of faced their body towards you a little bit more, you would know that they are not entirely happy with your approach, so stop or reverse or go elsewhere. Great question through from Mo in Chicago, and she's wondering, do elephants' tusks ever break? And she mentioned while digging. Yes, certainly. They will use their tusks to dig into sandy banks where they'll feed on the soil to get salty minerals. So that'll be an example of when they use their tusks to dig. But they also use their tusks to pry bark off trees, which puts a lot of pressure on them. as well as snapping branches over their tusks to feed on. So any one of those three acts could lead to a tusk breaking. Also, fighting between bulls will be a likely cause of a tusk to break. And they do break. You do see elephants with missing tusks. Some are born genetically without any tusks, but a lot of them do simply snap off. Especially with the monstrous tuskers. There's not many of them roaming around Africa. Sadly, the ivory trade many years ago meant that a lot of the good genes for huge were shot out. But you still do get massive elephants whose tusks literally touch the ground. And it will be an average human being's leg at the base.
Sorry about that, everybody, but Scott is struggling a little bit with Wendy there at the dam. What a marvellous sighting it sounds like you're having. I'm rather jealous. While we drive Bumble around, hoping for the phantom leopard of Karula. You've been watching some magnificent suckling action with a tiny little baby elephant. Possibly one of the most beautiful things you can ever see in the bush. Next to wild dogs, of course, and now you've had both of those today, which is great stuff. We're coming around quarantine clearings now, and Jamie is in the block around where the tracks went. Now, of course, because she's a leopard, she doesn't leave very obvious markings, so we're just kind of roaming around the outside and seeing if her tracks don't cross out of the block, or if she's perhaps crossed out during the night and has strung up, say, a steenbok in one of the trees. That would be very exciting to see. We're also in the area where Jean-Andre saw the mating giraffe yesterday, and we were kind of hoping that that might still be on the go. Simply because it is the most fascinating thing to do, to see. Normally what happens is the males chase the females, and she shows absolutely no interest until she's completely ready to mate. And then she'll stand still very briefly. Here's a tiny giraffe. Chandra, I don't think this is the giraffe that resulted from last night's mating, but still it is a small giraffe nevertheless. Here we go. Oh, this is that one we've been watching here for the last 4 weeks or so. Probably now almost 3 months old. Very sweet. Now, to me, it's always so interesting how stocky they are. Their legs are stocky. They've got very powerful muscles in their shoulders already, and the neck is proportionately shorter than it would be on the adult. And that's for two reasons. One is that, of course, they need to suckle, so they don't want to have an encumbrance of a huge neck. And the second is, of course, that it makes them inherently unstable to have a great big long neck. And so a slightly shorter neck and powerful legs on a young calf is very helpful if they're trying to get away from predators at this young age. Isn't that sweet? As soon as we can restore signal with Scott and his baby elephant, we'll take you back there. But at the moment, what a wonderful thing to see, this little baby. And I don't think he will be on his own. I think there will definitely be cow or two around here. I'm just keeping an eye, and as I said earlier, they sometimes look like they're not paying great attention to each other, but what you will find is that I think that they communicate with with various different sort of techniques, including infrasound, and I'm sure that this one is communicating with its mother and the other members of its little herd, possibly just visually. It's not unheard of for giraffe mothers to go off and leave their babies for hours at a time as they go and feed, but I do think that they stay connected. Now look at that. So you might be able to see just hanging below that giraffe's belly the last vestiges of the umbilical cord. And despite that, this giraffe is already eating leaves. It's already starting to sample the vegetarian wares that are on offer here at quarantine clearings, but will still be suckling, I'm sure, at the same time. He's a very sweet little fellow, and I mean, on his screen he probably looks quite big to you, but he's probably, I would say, wow, what would you say, Jean-Andre, about 7 feet tall? A little bit taller than that, 8 feet, maybe 8 foot tall. So not very tall for a giraffe, and you can see the muscles there in the chest. Look at the muscles that he's got. That's a fairly newborn animal. Definitely packed on an enormous amount of muscle on the legs, which of course are very necessary when you are running away from lions and hyenas. I think also quite interesting, if you look at his knees, they look like they're slightly grazed, and I suspect that's because these youngsters do lie down a bit more than the adults, and the skin has probably been grazed off the front of his legs. So, is this a male or a female? Derek, it is a male, and the only way you can tell that is to look between its legs at this stage, and unfortunately it's turned away from us, but he's definitely got a very small scrotum and the beginnings of what is called the sheath, which will eventually house the penis. So definitely a male giraffe, this one. But you can't tell at this stage other than by looking between their legs. Now, we were discussing earlier the size of the heart and why it is that they have such a big heart. And Alina in California, you want to know how big it is. I've actually forgotten, but the figure of 7 kilograms pops into my mind. So I think that it's substantial. And an adult giraffe, I'd say probably about 7 kilos, which is about 3 pounds, no, double that, say 16 pounds worth of heart. I think very large in the adults. Alina, I think that's probably the mass. I may be quite wrong though. That particular figure escapes my mind. So, yeah, I think got that recollection in my mind, but it might be wrong. We'll check up for you. Right, let's drive on slightly. See what else we can find around here. We'll just see where the rest of the herd is. Oh, there they are. There's the mother there. There's a huge pile of sticks here, so I can't drive off the road. I'll just turn around through here. Right. Go and look at the rest. I think it's just the mum. This is exactly genre where we had the others last night, isn't it? To sneak in a Land Rover, of course, is not easy. We'll just ease our way through here, the baby and then the mum. Maybe we won't, we'll go this way. Patience game, this wildlife thing. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to try and push this mother too much, but she's hiding behind an enormous sycamore bush tree. The both hiding behind basically the only bush that there is between us and them. But there you can see the baby, and you can see Mum's shapes sticking out from behind that sickle bush tree. So sweet. And I don't know if you can hear that. It's a white-browed scrub robin, and that tends to be their alarm call or their evening call. They often do that in the evenings, just before it gets dark. I can't see the bird, but it's quite close by. Maybe alarm calling at a mongoose or a snake or even us. And of course, many people come out here to Africa and they're told they should look for the big five. And the big five, of course, the buffalo, elephant, lion, leopard, and rhino. And when people used to say to me, we want to see the big five, I'd say, but don't you want to see giraffe and wild dog and cheetah? And they'd say, oh, are they not part of the big five? And Gretchen, you say that you haven't seen giraffe for a long time and you've needed a nice fix of them. I think giraffe, like you, are one of the most magnificent animals you could possibly watch out here. I mean, compared, all of the animals here are magnificent, no doubt. But this, I mean, in terms of a majestic creature, surely a giraffe must rank right up there with the best of them. So Gretchen, I agree with you completely. Lovely to get a nice giraffe fix. And they're nomadic, you know. And we had some comments a little bit earlier from Jana, who's coming to Africa. And Jana, you've told us that you're coming to Arathusa, which is of course just to the west of us. That's marvellous. I think you'll see some great stuff. You'll meet some lovely people too. And you don't know where else you're going to stay while you're out here. That is most adventurous of you, Jana. I'm sure you will find any number of great places to stay while you're out here in what was recently voted, of course, the world's most beautiful country. Possibly by South Africans, but I still agree with that thoroughly. The other thing, I mean, so today you have had the elephants, of course they're part of the big five, but even if you hadn't had the elephants and we hadn't been viewing them with Scott there, to have had a beautiful giraffe sighting like this, those incredible birds that Scott showed you at the dam, and the wild dogs to start off with, even in the absence of any big five animal, this would have been a spectacular drive. So I do hope fervently one day that the term big five disappears from the human lexicon entirely, because it does really undersell all the other magnificent animals that we have out here. Dear, and there's another question about hearts here. Anna-Marie, you want to know how much larger an elephant's heart is from a giraffe's? Anna-Marie, I'm going to have to go and do some research, I'm afraid. I'm very sorry, I don't know the difference. I imagine an elephant's heart proportionally, but in total mass, its gross mass must be larger than a giraffe's. So I'm afraid, Anna-Marie, I'm going to go and have to look that up for you. I don't know. But remember that the big thing to remember with an elephant versus a giraffe is that the heart doesn't have to overcome the effects of gravity in the same way that it does in a giraffe. So that long neck provides something of a difficulty for the animal in getting blood to the most important part of the body, and that's the brain. Well, one of the most important parts, and keeping it there just long enough for it to feed the brain with oxygen and then extracting it again. And so there's a very complex network of valves and veins and arteries below the giraffe's brain that regulates the blood flow to the brain from this enormous heart. Which is somewhere in there. I'm constantly amazed by the musculature on those young giraffes' legs. Oh, this is very exciting. I'm going to go quickly across to Scott. He's got another tiny baby for you, this time a lot more colourful.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, this is something that I've never done before. We've taken a film of some tiny lilac-breasted rollers. Take a close look at this. You can't see very clearly, so do your best to squint and take a close look. You can see them in there.
Little baby birds. It'd be nice if you moved a little bit so that people can see what you actually are. But I don't think we're going to get that lucky.
So you could have possibly seen that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm trying to create...
Little baby birds.
There you can see them moving ever so slightly.
So that people can see
Hardly any feathers on them. And these are lilac-breasted rollers. Can you believe it? And I'm just going to... And there's just 2 of them in there. And what I'm going to do now is just... As Teb zooms out, you can see our little anti-glare enclosure we just made. And the nest is right in front of us. So if you look at this little cavity in the tree there, that's where the adults enter. But interestingly enough, oh, I can hear the mothers in the tree. If you just go up a little, here she comes, Tebs. A little bit higher up. And she's got some food that she wants to feed them. She's making her way down. Can you believe it? This is absolutely awesome. So now at least you know who she's going to feed. Some tiny, basically unfeathered chicks. Possibly only a couple of days old. I only discovered this nest 2 days ago. And she might be a little bit apprehensive. She watched me doing the film from nearby. Here she goes. Straight into the hole. I can't tell what she's got there in her beak, but how lucky is our timing? It's what those tiny little unfeathered, not very pretty birds are going to turn into one day. Still can't work out what exactly she's caught there to feed them. But now what's interesting is that you would expect the nest to be not too far into this cavity, but it's about 70 to 80 centimeters down. That's what made filming it so tricky. They are very far down that hole. So basically, like I said, about at least 50 centimeters, at least half a meter, this adult needs to kind of clamber downwards through a very tight cavity where the chicks are waiting at the base, and then she'll have to kind of somehow clamber back up. I'm not sure how she does it. Here she goes. And she's going to disappear a long way down, unless of course she drops it from there, but I doubt that's going to be the case. She will need to feed from beak to beak, these tiny little fledglings. And you can see how difficult it is for her to get in there. And that's what made it so tricky for us to film. Can you believe it? Well, so happy that you got to see the little chicks that she went to go and feed right now. And we'll be doing our best to carry on taking kind of short videos on cell phones that we can show you. Or possibly we may have a little tool. VM's got a kind of endoscope, a camera that's got a little cord that you just push into holes and then it films down into cavities. It'll also be useful to use in this scenario and other scenarios. There's going to be a lot of different birds nesting in cavities in trees, and I'm sure a lot of you enjoyed that insight into what is going on in the hole as opposed to just seeing the adults disappearing down it. What a great day it's been. Well done to James for finding the wild dogs early on this morning and for providing us with so much excitement early on to start the drive off. And then Buffelshoek Waterhole provided us with an ornithological buffet with lots of birds to see and lots of birds feeding to see. The kingfishers catching fish, the storks catching fish. A real wonderful sighting was had over there. And all the other stuff in between, the elephants, the giraffe. Truly a wonderful safari, and I'm sure a lot of you have enjoyed it. Well done to Tebs on camera, and to Tara and Jerry in the final control room. We will see you all on the next safari. Over to James.
That is an absolutely astonishing thing for you to have seen. I am, again, well, jealous, but also it just proves the point that you can't be looking around here only for the big five when you've got amazing things like that lilac-breasted roller. Lim Mo has come back to us with some information. Thank you, Lim Mo, for this. You say that the heart of an adult giraffe is 11 kilograms, which is about 24 pounds, so much bigger than I thought it was. The largest of any land mammal, so possibly even bigger than elephants. Thank you for that, Lim Mo. And that it pumps an astonishing 60 litres of blood per minute around the body. So that's really pretty astonishing. Really incredible stuff. Thank you, Lim Mo, for that. And apparently their blood pressure is also more than double that of a human being. That's not surprising. I suspect it's also higher because they're generally a lot more afraid than we are, given they must look out for things that want to eat them all the time. So here's the mother having a browse, a late breakfast. Like I say, the energy of things is really reduced now. Well, not reduced, it's just changed. And it's just a wonderful kind of calm. And then a quick question. We've obviously talked a lot about the rain and the weather and the dryness and that sort of thing. And Neil, you want to know if it's going to rain today, if there's anything predicted. Neil, there wasn't even any cloud predicted for today. So the fact that there is no rain does not surprise me in the slightest. I don't think there will be rain. It doesn't feel like rain. Maybe the odd spot, but who knows. There was some predicted for the end of this week, around Saturday, but I mean, that even a short-term prediction out here is almost impossible to get. Anyway, that's it for this morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for your time. Sorry for our late start, but wonderful dogs we've had, wonderful elephants, a plethora of birds which have really delighted us, which are sitting here in what